SnowRunner is one of the most unique games ever made, and while it has great mechanics and amazing visuals, there are core issues and things that you must know before you buy it. So is it worth buying for you? Let's find out. But in SnowRunner, you play as a driver, and you're tasked with completing challenging missions that could be delivering goods, rescuing stranded vehicles, and even repairing infrastructure. The ultimate goal is to navigate through tough environments using different off-road vehicles, ensuring deliveries are made and the tasks are complete. The game is set in a highly realistic world that'll feature detailed environments with dynamic weather and challenging terrain. You'll encounter muddy trails, icy roads, deep snow, and rushing rivers, and each of them will require different strategy and vehicle to overcome it. Therefore, the nature of the game is all about realism and the satisfaction of conquering difficult off-road conditions. And where the game truly stands out is with a very detailed vehicle physics and with the need to carefully plan every route. You must select the right vehicle, make modifications, and drive very strategically to navigate harsh environments. And while the game might look quite simple on paper, it can go quite deep and will require a lot of trial and error. Now for the main gameplay, it's all about completing various off-road missions and contracts, and the point of it is to navigate through harsh and rugged environments using different types of off-road vehicles. You need to manage your resources, plan your routes very carefully, and adapt to ever-changing conditions. For example, you might have a contract to deliver supplies to a remote village in Alaska, but the route is blocked by deep snow and icy roads. You will then need to choose the right vehicle, maybe even equip it with snow chains, and then carefully drive to complete the mission. And a typical gameplay session might look something like this. You select the mission. This could be delivering fuel to a distant logging camp. So first, you choose the right truck for the job. This might be a heavy-duty one with good traction. But then as you drive through muddy terrain, you might encounter obstacles like a fallen tree or even deep mud pits. You can then use your wrench to pull your vehicle out of tricky spots or clear obstacles. But of course, along the way, you must also keep an eye on your fuel and make sure you don't run out. Which leads me to my next point, the progression. So in the early game, it's all about basic vehicles and quite simple missions. And the focus of this early game will be on learning the game mechanics. This could be the vehicle controls, how to use the wrench, and navigating through basic terrain like mud and small streams. But as you progress, the missions will become more complex and the terrain even more challenging. Now you will also unlock more powerful and specialized vehicles, and you can also upgrade your existing vehicles with better tires, engines, and even equipment like winches. But by the end game, you'll be tackling the toughest missions. This could be transporting heavy loads through deep snow or repairing major infrastructure. And at this point, your vehicle fleet must be diverse and well equipped so that you can handle any obstacle the game throws at you. What you'll also notice about the game is the open world environment. The game takes place in many locations, where every map is very expansive and detailed, offering a big range of terrains and environments to explore. And it's this open world nature of the game that allows you to freely explore the map and discover new routes, hidden upgrades, and even additional missions. And it's therefore highly beneficial, but also a big part of the game. Now, let's dive deeper into some of the most unique aspects and what makes the game truly stand out. One of them is the very realistic vehicle physics. The game will actually accurately simulate how different vehicles will handle terrains like mud, snow, ice, and water. And every vehicle will have their own characteristics. This could be the weight, the engine power, and even the tire type. And these factors will determine how the vehicle interact with the environment. For example, a heavy truck with off-road tires will handle mud and snow much better than a lighter vehicle with regular tires. And it is this system that makes every mission challenging, but also unique and really fun. Another standout feature is the very dynamic weather system and the time of day cycle. The game has many different weather conditions. This could be rain, snow, and fog, and the weather and the time of day will change in real life and affect your entire gameplay. This could be the visibility, your traction, and overall driving conditions. If you try to drive at night during a snowstorm, that could lead to big trouble. The game also supports multiplayer mode, so you can team up with your friends and complete missions together. You could work to tackle the toughest challenges, share your resources, and even assist each other when you get stuck. And this cooperative play adds an entire new layer of fun and strategy to the game, whereas working with your friends to complete the missions can make the game more enjoyable, but you could also slightly troll them. And that brings me to my next point, the game's difficulty. It is a quite challenging game, and it will definitely be tough for some players, and especially for new players, but it is also very rewarding if you enjoy a good challenge. Additionally, the game does not hold your hand that much, so you'll need to learn a lot through trial and error, and it is this learning process that can make the game feel difficult, but also more rewarding at the end. So if you're a new player, the quite steep learning curve can be overwhelming. Now you will start with basic missions that will teach you the mechanics, like how to control your vehicle and use the winch, but even on simple tasks, it can be quite challenging due to the realistic physics and the rough terrain. For example, even in the starter missions, you could get so stuck in deep mud that it would be almost impossible to pull yourself out. And this can happen even with the more experienced players. A sudden change in weather or tricky terrain can be very difficult to overcome. And I would therefore say that the game caters more to hardcore players who enjoy more realistic and strategic gameplay, where the casual player might find the difficulty and the complexity quite frustrating. challenging. Now, as you have probably noticed, this game is beautiful. And that brings me to the next point, the graphics. And they are detailed. Anywhere from the landscapes, the realistic mud, snow, and even the water effects makes the game visually impressive. Also, every location, from the snowy Alaska to the muddy Michigan, is beautifully rendered and really simulates how the real world looks. The sound design is also top-notch, with realistic engine noises, environmental sounds, and the crunch of the tire on different terrain. Furthermore, the music is subtle and will fit the game's atmosphere, enhancing the sense of immersion, but without being distracting. And it is this atmosphere that is really immersive and makes the game highly engaging. The combination of realistic graphics and the sound effect make you feel like you're truly navigating the challenging off-road environments. Then you add the weather effects and the day-night cycle that make every mission feel unique and lifelike. But of course the game is not perfect, so let's look at the pros and cons to determine if the game is worth it for you. Now, the first pro is the open world exploration. The game maps are large, open world, and you can explore freely. You can find hidden upgrades, new missions, and a ton of alternative routes for your next mission, really adding a good sense of adventure and discovery. The next pro is the insane variety of vehicles and upgrades. There are so many different vehicles to choose from, and each of them with their own strengths and weaknesses. You can then also customize and upgrade them, depending on what the mission requires. The next pro is the very realistic vehicle physics, which is hands down one of the best features of the entire game. It provides a challenging and authentic driving experience, where the detailed simulation of how vehicles would interact with different terrains add a ton of depth and realism to the gameplay. And the final pro is of course the graphics and atmosphere. The game is beautiful, with detailed graphics that really bring the environment to life. Furthermore, the realistic landscapes and even the weather effects makes the game visually impressive, immersive, but also very challenging. And now for the cons. The first con is the learning curve. The game will be quite difficult when you start out, and especially if you're a more casual player, as the quite realistic physics and the challenging missions will require a lot of patience and practice to master, which can be very frustrating for some. And while there are some tutorials, the game does not provide much guidance beyond the basics. The next con is the somewhat repetitive tasks. Some of the tasks will be quite repetitive after a while, as many missions will involve similar types of deliveries and even rescues. So you have to love the core foundation of driving and navigating terrains without necessarily needing a new mission type every time. And the final con is the potential for performance issues. Now, since the graphics are so detailed and the physics system is so complex, it can be quite demanding on your PC, especially on older or lower end systems, and I therefore highly recommend checking out the system requirements before buying it. But with all that said, let's grade the game. SnowRunner gets an amazing 8 out of 10 for several reasons. It is quite impressive just how realistic and how stunning the graphics are. The game really excels in creating an immersive experience with detailed environments and realistic vehicle physics. On top of that, you have the dynamic weather system and the day-night cycle that add a ton of challenge and keep the gameplay fresh. And if you enjoy simulation games, I think you really appreciate how deep and authentic the game feels, where every mission feels like a genuine off-road adventure. However, the game is not perfect and there are several drawbacks. There is a steep learning curve that can be very daunting for new players. It will require a ton of patience and practice to master the many mechanics. Additionally, the nature of the game is quite repetitive. Some of the tasks will become tedious over time, as they are quite similar. Furthermore, there's potential for performance issues if you're on an older system, which would definitely ruin the overall experience for you. But in conclusion, SnowRunner is an excellent choice for you if you love realistic simulation games and challenging off-road driving. Furthermore, the game's beautiful graphics, the detailed physics, and the dynamic environment make it a true standout game. And if you're looking for a game that'll offer a ton of depth and a true feeling of immersion, then SnowRunner is definitely worth your time and money. For more amazing games, click here.